The prophecy of the Toad Sage was never meant for Naruto, and the introduction of Kashin Koji's new Shinjutsu just proved that. A year ago I created this video where I talked about how the origin of Senjutsu could have something to do with the Otsutsuki clan. The main thesis of that video was that when shinobis try to replicate Shinjutsu, they end up creating ninjutsu. But in case of the great Toad Sage Gamamaru, his imitation of Shinjutsu led to the birth of Senjutsu. I then compared his power of looking into the future to Momoshiki, and considering the big plot twist from chapter 13, it seems like I was right. The Toad Sage was able to tell his prophecy to Jiraiya through a Shinjutsu known as Prescience. It was originally possessed by Shibai Otsutsuki, and right now there are 4 known people who could use this. First we have Momoshiki, who saw the future of Boruto and warned him about what's about to come. Then we have Shibai himself, who possesses all the divine powers that are being used by the cyborgs. Next on the list is Kashin Koji, who unlocked this power after the Ishiki fight and decided to help Boruto in saving the world. He was able to tap into this power through the implantation of Shibai cells inside his body. Lastly, we have Toneri Otsutsuki, whose prediction about the jougan makes it seem like he had the future sight as well. I'm not counting Boruto here, cause his manifestations of this power were fueled by Momoshiki. It was actually the host Otsutsuki who took a glimpse in the future, and just cause Boruto's mind was fused with him, it made him have a glimpse of the forthcoming too. Not to mention he foresaw one of the avoided futures, meaning that the things that one sees using this ability are not absolute, but just the possibilities. This brings us to the great Toad Sage and his predictions about the child of prophecy. So now that we know Gamamaru had tapped into the power of Otsutsukis to see the future, a lot of things now make more sense, especially the identity of the child of prophecy. While it was believed that Naruto was the one who was given the role to save the world, with the reveal of the new intel on Prescience and how every foreseen future is liable to change, I think it's now obvious that the writers have played a sneaky move by introducing Shinjutsu to the lore. Till the point when Boruto was introduced, the plot holes were just seen as the usual errors of the author while writing the story. The inconsistencies were looked upon as mistake and not a potential setup that could lead to something big. But with the introduction of a sequel with high hopes, many plot holes could now land upon a satisfying conclusion. Like the whole Jashin plot, he could now return as an Otsutsuki god instead of getting buried inside the graveyard of potential setups. Or this mysterious entity behind Obito could now get revealed to be Boruto for some mind-blowing reasons. Well, that's the topic to one of my upcoming videos, so make sure you are subscribed to not miss that. But keeping all the plot holes aside, we can now get an extension of a really renowned plot point of the story. The child of prophecy who was believed to be Naruto all this time has now changed to Boruto for a sensible reason. As we know, the Prescience makes one look at all the possible futures, with some possibilities coming to life while some getting avoided. When the Toad Sage foresaw a child becoming the apostle of peace, he must have seen Naruto based on how the story ended. But now that we have a sequel, it can be concluded that the future changed, and whatever the Toad Sage had foreseen is now shouldered to Boruto. The second possibility says the Toad Sage foresaw Kashin Koji and Boruto saving the world, and he couldn't differentiate between Jiraiya and him since they both share the same genes. This clever writing has made the Toad Sage appear as if he did look into the events of Boruto way before the story came into existence. Kishimoto himself said in an interview that he wouldn't have created Boruto if Ikimoto wasn't handling the artworks. But looking at how he was still able to connect all these dots is really remarkable. In other words, if Boruto had never happened, it would have made sense for Naruto to be the child of prophecy. But to prevent a huge retcon from taking place, Kishimoto introduced Prescience to solidify Boruto's role as the prophetic child. Now before we dive into how possibly did Gamamaru obtain the Senjutsu, which may be an imitation of certain Shinjutsu like the ninjutsu, there is a point about the author's strategy to retcon without consequences that I would like to mention here. Indeed, the Prescience may have granted Kishimoto the liberty to connect dots from his original story into his promised sequel, but something that could disappoint a lot of his fans, including me, is the utilization of Prescience to retcon the prologue sequence. It can easily be implied that the future fight of Boruto and Kawaki was from a timeline which got successfully avoided. No one would even be able to question anything after the creators played this tricky move to play with the expectations of fans, but it also depends upon how the story would turn out without this event. It could be better or maybe worse. Personally, I won't like the Prescience being used to retcon a highly anticipated event from the story. Now coming back to the great Toad Sage and how we obtained the power of Senjutsu and divination. Basically, Senjutsu or sage techniques are a specialized field of jutsu that involve the use of nature energy. Those who practice Senjutsu, referred to as sages, master the ability to absorb natural energy into their bodies, merging it with their personal chakra to form Senjutsu chakra. Gamamaru was was a master of Senjutsu, and even while he was still very young, he already had a deep understanding and control of natural energy. By harnessing it, he could easily lift massive stone structures. It's still unknown whether his Prescience power was an outcome of his Senjutsu chakra or not, but I guess I have the best theory to explain what's going on. The reason Gamamaru got the glimpse of future could be because of his possession of the natural energy. We know Shibai Otsutsuki or any Otsutsuki god must be connected to the chakra of the whole universe, and when a toad like Gamamaru cracked the code of utilizing the nature energy, it must have crossed the eye of Shibai Otsutsuki as well. Not just because he was the first one to do so, but also due to the fact that he possessed the Senjutsu for a very long time. Absorbing nature energy over centuries must have kind of made him a part of the nature, and as we know, the gods of Otsutsukis are connected to nature, so whenever a divine event like the omnipotence would occur, the toad sage must have been alarmed that something happened, and this is where his divine prophecy enters the scene. I think when the infamous memory rewrite that Momoshiki talked about had occurred, it must have been the same time when the toad sage got a glimpse of Boruto and Kashin Koji. Now I'm not saying both the events took place simultaneously, but there must be a bridge connecting these two events. So the omnipotence that Momoshiki mentioned being responsible for triggering the Prescience in Gamamaru is a huge possibility. The Senjutsu just brought him near to Otsutsukis, as they could be utilizing their powers in a similar manner. Even the reveal of Uzuhiko made this possibility more concrete. Assuming it's an Otsutsuki ability, then it's very clear that these creatures utilize outside forces to create their own abilities, similar to how Gamamaru operates by utilizing the nature energy to boost up his chakra-based powers. In a nutshell, the Toad Sage imitated the way of Otsutsukis, and that's how we ended up unlocking the power to see the forthcoming. Now here's an interesting analogy of the Senjutsu users that I think was intentional. All the people who learned the Sage Arts from Mount Myoboku got entangled in a divine intervention. The lineage of Minato and Naruto saw the birth of Boruto, who's on his way of becoming the world's savior, while Jiraiya got a clone of himself after death, who's now shouldering an even greater fate than him. This means Mount Myoboku has some hidden significance in the story that could likely get revealed later. It cannot be a coincidence that the prophecy teller, the one who fulfills the prophecy, and the one who was the subject of this prediction, all of them have some ties to this place. What if Shibai was connected to Mount Myoboku? And I have a really exciting theory to back this claim. We know that Shibai Otsutsuki has been inspired from many divine figures from various religions and mythologies, but one of them that stands out the most is Shiva from Hindu mythology. He is known to be the destroyer god and even has multiple avatars like Vishnu and Ram. This avatar analogy could fit well with Boruto, but that's a topic for another video. The reason I think Shiva could be the key to understanding the link between Shibai and Mount Myoboku is due to the fact that his divine abode is said to be Mount Kailash in the Himalayas. It's considered to be his spiritual residence, and looking at how the dots are connecting so well, it's not impossible for Mount Myoboku to be the holy sanctuary of Shibai Otsutsuki. Maybe he ascended to a higher plane at this place, and his remains were later found by Jigen when he was exploring the world. This might explain why Mount Myoboku is considered to be a sacred place in the story. The connection of Shibai Otsutsuki with this place could have made toads like Gamamaru manipulate the natural energy, something that no one in history was able to do before. So we could say that Shibai was the one who brought in the Senjutsu to the ninja world, while Kaguya and her sons are the pioneer of ninjutsu. It may not be a coincidence that both Gamamaru and Hogoromo have crossed paths in their life. They both had ties to the most influential people of the universe, and their meeting was like a setup which determined the fate of this world. Hogoromo returned to help Naruto and Sasuke in sealing Kaguya, while the prophecy of the Toad Sage led to the foundation of Boruto's role in saving the world. There is more to the lore of Gamamaru, which solidifies the possibility of him having divine connection. He literally used a crystal ball to tell the story of Kaguya to her sons. Seems very similar to the mechanism of Aida's Senringan, which is also a Shinjutsu. By this, it can be concluded that he had the power to see the future and take a glimpse of the past as well. Now here comes the most interesting part of the theory, which could become an epitome of excellent writing. Gamamaru said to Hogoromo that toads rarely dream, cause the dream of a toad is destiny. He then added that he saw a blue-eyed boy who will name all the nine-tailed beasts and would bring in a miracle too. So certainly he was talking about Naruto, but now that the Ten Tails plot has returned to the story, what if this prediction was a double entendre meant for both Boruto and Naruto? We have the Shinju who are made from a 10 tails, and assuming the prophecy of the Toad Sage was about them, it can be assumed that 4 more Shinjus will appear and Boruto will be the one who will figure out a way to handle them. This may sound a bit far-fetched, but just because there are so many similarities similarities in Boruto and Naruto's legacy, I won't be surprised if the prophecies were about Boruto all this time, and thanks to Prescience, Kishimoto got away from the blame of ruining the great elements of Naruto's story for the sake of improving Boruto as a series. Another thing about Gamamaru is that he said a toad's dream is destiny. This single statement of the great toad sage again links him to Shibai Otsutsuki. By growing up at a place which may be associated with the deity, chances are he was able to tap into sub-divinity. Like, how did he know that his dreams would come true? Who gave him this vital piece of information at first place? And how was it possible for Gamamaru's prophecy to get influenced by omnipotence? I'm about to answer all these questions, and if you also want to turn your dreams into destiny, just make that subscribe button disappear by clicking on it as a good luck sign. Now coming back to Gamamaru's divine knowledge, what if he was receiving some signals or messages from Shibai Otsutsuki through his dreams? This may sound a bit absurd at first, but think about it. The god Otsutsuki needed some mediums to intervene in the mortal world, and Gamamaru could be the first person whom he used in this endeavor. We know from chapter 13 of Two Blue Vortex that Shibai is protecting Boruto, maybe because he needs him for some top tier divine mission that only he can handle. Now here's why I think the people like Toad Sage Jiraiya and his clone are involved here. Shibai Otsutsuki wanted Boruto to come into existence for reasons that are not known to us. But for that to happen, he needed to ensure Naruto marrying Hinata and the shinobi world getting away with all the possible threats. The death of Naruto or the important figures in his life would have meant that Boruto will never be born, but he was more like a divine will of the Otsutsuki god, so he had to appear in one way or another. It's like a plot armor which ensures your bloodline will not get extinct unless you are born, and that's what exactly happened with Gamamaru being the first chess piece. His foretelling of a child of prophecy paved the way for Jiraiya and Kashin Koji to find the suitable person, and once everything started lining up too well, the destiny of Boruto began. In other words, Shibai manifested the legacy of Boruto from a mere dream of Gamamaru. All the events were set up to bring forth the most powerful Otsutsuki to ever exist. Kashin Koji is more or less the seal of the Toad Sage prophecy, which was rooted by Shibai. The reason I think so is because the whole point of all the events must have been to connect Boruto with the Otsutsuki god, and that's what has been happening. First he encountered a group named Kara, who were utilizing Shibai's cells as experiments. Then he apparently got the cells of Shibai injected inside his body through Mitsuki when he took a sample of Boro's blood to create antibodies. His life took a 360-degree turn due to the powers of the same deity, and the latest pillar of hope that he found is also utilizing Shibai's Prescience power to help him out. The similarity he shares with the deity in his Otsutsuki form is another major hint that Shibai wants him. Now to understand what purpose he could have with Boruto, we will need to figure out the interconnectedness of all the predictions made through Prescience. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned that Toneri Otsutsuki could also have the power to look into the future, explaining his jougan prophecy from the anime. The dojutsu that will guide Boruto in dispelling the darkness will soon glimmer in his right eye. It's the jougan, something that Otsutsuki see as troublesome and could turn out to be the pinnacle of Boruto's fate. Shibai seems to wield the same eye, as confirmed by the Otsutsuki god panel, and he could have been pushing Boruto in circumstances that would awaken this eye for him. So how exactly would this play out? Well, we have the master blueprint of Samurai 8, which has explored these divine concepts in more depth than Boruto, and judging by the similarities of the warrior god and the Otsutsuki god, it seems like the jougan may be the bridge to Boruto's divine hood. But for that to actually happen, he needs to unlock the pure eye first, and here is how I think we would get there. The one responsible for Boruto's jougan awakening looks a lot like Toneri Otsutsuki, not just in base form, but the chakra mode too. Mitsuki seems to be the key to Boruto's awakening of the Shinjutsu, simply because he transferred the cells of Shibai from Boru to the body of the prodigy, and once these cells would activate, Boruto would find his right eye glimmering with the divine power. Now a common question that I have heard from you guys is that if we already saw Boruto with the jougan in the anime, how does it make sense for Boro's blood mixed with Shibai's cells to activate the pure eye for him? While the theory of anime and manga witnessing different timelines would explain it all, but I really want the Toneri part of the story to be manga canon, since he was canon to the novel material. So here is what I think could have happened. Just like how a Toad's dream is destiny, Boruto's dream also showed his destiny, which was to awaken a divine Shinjutsu. Now as for the jougan, whose true nature and abilities remain a mystery, think of it as a power which is independent of time. I'm saying this because time plays a huge role in all the Shinjutsu abilities that we have seen so far. Daikoku sends the user to a dimension where the flow of time literally stops. Senringan has past vision while Prescience has future vision. So think of the jougan as an omnitemporal power which can exist anywhere on the timeline. Now that we know the fate in Naruto verse is not linear, but more like a lined up set of events, it could be that the jougan has a consciousness of its own, and after being revealed to Boruto in a dream, it manifested itself in the past, which surprised the blue-eyed boy. In other words, the jougan time traveled to show itself to Boruto when he had his right eye upright. But right now in the story, he doesn't have a functioning eye in the right socket, so the Shibai cells undergoing fission to awaken this omnitemporal power in Boruto's right eye is a huge possibility. Well, that's how the verse of Gamamaru acted as the base for Boruto's attainment of the Shinjutsu. Now looking at the prologue sequence where the story is headed, here are some prophecies that I believe could come true and how. First we have Toneri's prophecy of the jougan awakening to help out Boruto in dispelling the darkness. I think just like how Kashin Koji's Shibai cells were activated on a verge of death type of situation, the same could happen with Boruto, meaning the jougan is gonna awaken when there won't be any hope left. So a tough fight with the Shinjus, especially Jura, who has killed him in one of the possible timelines, could be the key to the Pure Eye's awakening. The reason Mitsuki looks a lot like Toneri might be a clever foreshadowing that not many people were able to catch. Then we have the Torsage prophecy of Boruto bringing peace to the world. Well, that will also certainly happen, as there is a DT waiting for Boruto to handle his matters of the mortal world. The real big mission of the prodigy would begin after everything from the Shinjus to Kawaki conflict gets resolved, and the missing Otsutsuki panels from the Ten Tails dimension are a big proof of this. Shibai's partner would certainly return to have a fight with the prodigy, whom the DT has himself chosen. Their lore could get even more exciting if this partner of Shibai Otsutsuki is revealed to be none other than Jashin. Well, that's a topic which deserves a separate video, so make sure to comment below if you want me to bring some juicy theories on Jashin the missing Otsutsuki. Till then, you can check out these videos about Boruto's upcoming powers and the next big manga twist. I will see you next time. I will see you next time.